In Russia, the state doesn't control guns, it controls the idea of guns. If you're a normal person, walking around with a handgun on you is basically science fiction. On paper, there are licenses, but the moment a real gun shows up in public, the system treats you first like a suspect. Stick around because by the end of this video, I'll tell you how I ended up buying a unfired World War II era pistol that had been sitting in a sealed Soviet era crate for decades, and what that says about how many guns are still floating around over there. Now, quick disclaimer before we dive in, I'm not a Russian lawyer, and this video is not legal advice. I'm pulling from publicly available sources, and I will do my best with Russian words. Chapter 1. The History of Russia and Guns. In Imperial Russia, hunting was mostly a rich man's hobby. Ordinary families weren't keeping pistols by the bed. There were exceptions. Cossack communities and millions of conscripts after universal service in 1874 knew their weapons well, but as tools of state duty, issued and returned. After the revolutions, the new regime faced armed crowds and chaos. So it ordered civilians to surrender weapons and built a culture where the state, not the citizen, held the gun. Through the Soviet era, that pattern hardened. Shooting and hunting were encouraged inside state clubs, so marksmanship was common, private carry was not. World War II reinforced that mindset. Firearms belonged to collective defense, organized by the state. In the countryside and far north, licensed hunting remained part of life, but cities never developed a pistol carry tradition. When the USSR collapsed, the 1990s brought economic turmoil, pockets of black market leakage due to stockpiling of guns during the Cold War, and conflicts like Chechnya, events that convinced Moscow to keep a tight grip. The new legal framework allowed long guns through clubs and licenses, but it never embraced civilian handgun carry. Now keep watching. In a few chapters from now, I'll walk you through what actually happens the moment you pull the trigger in Russia. Chapter 2. Who actually has guns in Russia? If you want to understand guns in Russia, don't start with how many exist. Start with who the state trusts to hold them, because gun ownership there isn't a right spread across the population. It's a pyramid. At the top are the people with real power. At the bottom is the average citizen who might get a hunting shotgun if the state allows it. Now, at the very top of the pyramid is the state itself. The military, police, Rosgvardia, and security services are the public gun culture. They're the ones with the sidearms on patrol, rifles at checkpoints, and weapons at protests or big events. If you see a rifle on a Moscow street, it's not in civilian hands. It's in the hands of someone who works for the state or answers directly to it. One layer down, you have licensed security and VIP protection. That's bank guards, mall security, armored cash crews. Some of them are armed under strict company licenses. They're not free citizens with guns. They're an extension of a state control with uniforms and paperwork. Then you've got bodyguards around politicians and oligarchs. The important man usually doesn't carry a gun himself. His security team, often ex-military or ex-police, carries for him. If you're powerful enough in Russia, you don't need a gun. The gun follows you in a suit. Now you drop another level and you finally hit legal civilian owners. These are hunters, sport shooters, people in the far north, and some city dwellers who keep a shotgun locked away just in case. Their guns mostly live in safes, come out for hunting trips or range days. There's also a small slice of less lethal rubber bullet pistols. They look like handguns, they're tightly regulated, and using one on a person can still land you in serious trouble. You're allowed to own something pistol-shaped, but you're not treated like you have a true everyday carry right. Then there's everyone else, the majority. Most Russians have no guns at all. Maybe pepper spray, maybe a basic knife, often nothing. When trouble shows up, their realistic option is to call authorities. Now in the next chapter, we'll zoom in on what it actually takes for someone at the bottom of the pyramid to get even a single legal shotgun and how easy it is for the state to take it back. Chapter 3. The process of legally owning a gun in Russia. Now start to finish, it's a bureaucratic gauntlet, consistent on paper, but slower or stricter depending on where you live. First, you need to be a Russian citizen, generally over the age of 21. There are narrow exceptions, like certain military or professional hunters who can start at 18, but that's not most people. And you don't just ask for a gun license. You have to pick a legal reason the state recognizes. That's self-defense at home, hunting, sport shooting, or collection. That choice decides what kind of gun you can buy and where you're actually allowed to take it. You take an approved safety course and pass a handling exam. Then you get medical clearance, that's narcology and psychology, done at state clinics. Those results are filed electronically and the National Guard can see them. Next comes the background check. If you've got disqualifying convictions or medical contradictions, you're out. At home, you have to install a real safe, not a toy box, a bolted down gun cabinet in a fixed place. Inspectors can visit, and they do, especially in big cities. After training, medical background, and safe verification, you apply through the National Guard's licensing office. By law, they have a set window to decide, but the reality is this. A quiet district office moves faster. Moscow and other major cities can drag. Appointments book up, rechecks happen, and one missing document resets the clock. If you're approved, your first authorization covers smoothbore. You buy the shotgun, then you must register it promptly and receive your storage and carry permit for the specific gun. Permits run on 5-year cycles. Keep your record clean, renew on schedule, and answer letters or inspection calls when they come. If your health status changes, substance abuse, serious psychiatric issues, the medical system can flag it and National Guard can pull your permit early. After 5 clean years with a smoothbore and no screw-ups, you can apply to step up into select rifled long guns tied to sport or hunting. That upgrade is not automatic. You show compliance history, club or hunting paperwork, and you repeat the medical checks. Any administrative slip, that's missed renewal, sloppy storage, carrying outside a lawful context, can delay or derail that path. And there's a hard ceiling. For most civilians, the law limits how many civilian guns you can own overall. Typically around 10 long guns in total, with subcaps for different categories, unless you register as a formal collector. Russia caps magazines at 10. Anything more is for registered sport shooters. Now, less lethal rubber bullet pistols live under their own license and rules. People treat them like an easier shortcut, but they aren't. Misuse brings real criminal liability, and inspectors scrutinize storage and conduct just as hard. Now, is it the same everywhere? The statute is national. The experience is local. Some regions process clean applications inside a month. Some offices insist on stricter safe mounting, more photos, or extra proofs of club membership before they're satisfied. Now, is it fair? No. It's Russia. If you live in Russia or another country with laws like this, which one part of the process feels like pure punishment, and which step, if any, actually makes you feel safer? Tell me in the comments. Chapter 4. Self-defense in Russia. Can you use a gun in self-defense? Technically, yes. In reality, only in very narrow cases. Russian law talks about necessary defense against an immediate unlawful attack. Force has to be strictly proportionate to the threat. There's no broad castle doctrine like in parts of the US. If it looks mutual, retaliatory, or excessive, expect charges. And remember, only a small minority of civilians even possess legal firearms to begin with. So what do most people actually carry? Well, pepper spray is legal and common. Stun devices are allowed. Certain everyday knives are fine, but batons and impact weapons are only for police and security. But now picture this. You actually fire a gun in Russia. Maybe it's licensed hunting shotgun at home. Maybe it's a rubber bullet pistol in a parking lot. Either way, assume the full machine is about to land on you. You or someone nearby calls 112. Police and ambulance roll out. First, officers on the scene secure the weapon, secure the area, and separate you from everybody else. Your gun is seized on the spot. You're not the hero who stopped an attack. You're the person who just fired a weapon. You get detained for questioning, and under Russian law, you can ask for a lawyer before answering. So if you have any sense, you would say the same basic thing you'd say in the United States. I was attacked. I feared for my life. I'll cooperate after speaking with a lawyer. And then you stop talking. From there, the investigation starts grinding forward. They'll take statements from witnesses, pull any available camera footage, send the gun and ammunition for forensic checks, and decide what box you fit into. Box 1, they accept necessary defense, and there you might still spend months under investigation with restrictions on travel and your gun locked away, but eventually they close the case. Box 2, they call it excess in self-defense, or flat out a crime. Now you're looking at real charges, potential pretrial detention, and the kind of record that follows you for life. Now here's a word of caution. As I was doing research for this video, Russians online were basically saying the same thing in different words. Use a gun in Russia and your life is over, even if you were right. On paper, the criminal code says it protects defenders. In real life, if you shoot someone, expect to be treated like a suspect first and maybe a victim later. That's if the system ever decides you were the good guy. Now, in the next chapter, we'll look at that second group, the people who bet on illegal guns and the black market instead of trusting their own state, and how Russia tries to hunt them down. Chapter 5. The future of guns in Russia. Russia's murder rate is way lower than it was in the wild 1990s. But since the war in Ukraine, analysts and regional data suggest serious violent crime and gun cases have started climbing again. Guns are bleeding back from the front, and illegal weapons are anything but rare. According to Russia's own National Anti-Terrorism Committee, in 2024 alone, they seized more than 100,000 illegal firearms and about 5,500 explosive devices across the country. Now, where do they come from? Three main streams. First, legacy stock Soviet and World War II era guns that were never turned in, plus leakage from later conflicts. People still pull unfired pistols out of old warehouse crates and basements that have been sealed for decades. How do I know this? Around 2013, I bought an unfired Walther P38 that had been sitting in a Russian warehouse crate sealed since the 1970s. Yeah, for some reason they had a crate of P38s. Second, conversions and workshops. Police routinely bust small machine shops that refurbish, reactivate, or assemble hybrid and decommissioned firearms from mixed parts. Third, smuggling and online brokers. Flows tied to criminal networks, the Caucasus, and cross-border trades, increasingly coordinated in ordinary online spaces as much as on the dark web. And who holds all of them? Organized crime, regional gangs, and some ordinary people. That's why gun crime in Russia usually involves illegal weapons, not registered hunting shotguns or any licensed weapons. To a lot of people, the black market feels cheaper, quicker, and quieter than dealing with a state they don't trust. But don't get it twisted. Russia's enforcement is aggressive and constant. That's the shadow side of a permission-only system. When the legal lane is narrow and slow, the black market steps in to fill the gap. And the police spend the rest of their time chasing the guns they pushed underground. If you live in a place where owning and carrying is still treated as a right, your job is to act like you deserve it, train, carry responsibly, and stop making it easy for politicians to argue you don't need that right anymore. That's why we built Relax Fit Tactical, concealed carry sweatpants and everyday carry athletic shorts that actually work with the holster you already own. So carrying isn't some miserable chore you talk yourself out of every morning. Hit the link below or go to relaxfittactical.com to see the gear. We believe carrying a gun should be simple, comfortable, and most importantly, stylish enough to blend in. Hit the like, hit the bell, and don't be lame, subscribe.